Let's talk about the greatest Star Wars game ever made. No. Ugh. Yes! It's safe to say that, when it comes to gaming, Star Wars doesn't have the best reputation right now. Battlefront 2 was the new gold standard for how to destroy a game with microtransactions, and now that Visceral Games' Star Wars title is dead in the water, the future of interactive adventures set in a galaxy far, far away is looking pretty bleak. But a decade ago, things were different. Without Disney locking the franchise down to a single company, Star Wars games were free to experiment with all kinds of different stories and genres. Granted, not every game was a hit. There were some horrendously awful titles released under the Star Wars name, but giving developers the freedom to try new things led to some truly amazing video games. Star Wars Republic Commando was one of those games. You know how everyone on the internet is always asking for more dark and gritty Star Wars stuff? Yeah, that's exactly what Republic Commando is. Back in 2005, it was basically the exact opposite of what the prequel trilogy had become. While the movies ended up as some half-baked love story with terrible CG effects, Republic Commando was the down-and-dirty, boots-on-the-ground Clone Wars story that fans actually wanted to see. For those who missed out on the game when it first came out, the story centers around a squad of specialized clone troopers, with players taking on the role of RC-1138, better known as Boss.
Boss?
If playing like a stormtrooper sounds boring, don't worry. The Clone Commandos are not the expendable grunts seen in the movies. Delta Squad was basically the Star Wars version of the Master Chief, but, you know, like 4 of him. And truth be told, it's the squad that makes the game's story work. Delta Squad features some of the most likable AI companions ever programmed, and they're more than enough to make up for the game's disjointed central narrative. They are extremely tropey. One likes explosions, one is uptight, one is a psychopath. But the in-game dialogue between the members of your team is so well done, and they're all so genuinely likable, that it just works. It doesn't take long to start caring for these characters, despite the fact that they're clone foot soldiers, and that emotional connection ends up being the real driving force of the story. What's even better is that all throughout the campaign, the gameplay and level design reinforces the bond that you have with your brothers. Aside from the standard shooting, the majority of Republic Commando's gameplay is spent telling your squad what to do. Not only does this add to the notion that the player is more than your average soldier, it also ensures that Delta Squad aren't your average AI companions. They're an important part of your arsenal. Ads for the game use the tagline, "The squad is your weapon," and it's true. Most of the game is unbeatable without properly utilizing your squad, and the command system is so simple and easy to use that it feels like a natural extension of the player's own abilities. You don't connect to the squad simply because of their banter or personalities, but because of how important they are during actual gameplay. And then, out of nowhere, the game pulls a complete 180. While investigating a derelict cruiser, Delta Squad splits up, leaving players on their own. The feeling of power that came from wiping out hordes of enemies is gone, completely stripped away. Instead, players are left feeling isolated and vulnerable. You can't rely on your teammates to revive you, to lay down covering fire, to take out enemies. They're gone, and you're all alone. Again, it's the gameplay and design reinforcing the attachment that players have with their squad, and it makes the inevitable reunion that much more important. You aren't just getting your friends back, you're stronger because the team is back together. And then there's the game's ending. Oh yeah, spoilers for a 12-year-old game. After being forced to split up yet again, players are then told that they'll have to leave one of their commandos behind. Yeah, it's easy to see coming, and it's pretty cliched, but that doesn't stop it from hurting. I'll always love you, Sev! After going through all of that with your squad, surviving so many missions with and directly because of them, it's painful to have to leave one of them behind. It's so perfectly bittersweet for a war story like this, and far removed from the kind of universally positive conclusion that Star Wars fans are used to seeing. So, alright, it's pretty obvious that I'm a big fan of Republic Commando. I love the story, the gameplay, the weaponry. That being said, there are a few areas that haven't necessarily aged all that well. I mean, this is a game from 2005, back when shooters were 95% corridors. There are some absurd difficulty spikes, especially when you first enter the ghost ship, and the audio can be a bit overwhelming.
Objective accomplished. That's too much so far. Let's move on to the...
But the core of the game is done so well that the weaker parts of the package are pretty easy to ignore. Everything from the shooting to the controls to the voice acting to the art style are fantastic. Better yet, Republic Commando still feels like it belongs in Star Wars, despite the darker, more violent tone of the game. Hell, the dev team even managed to make the Clone Wars interesting. I didn't even think that was possible. And on top of all that, the idea of story and gameplay working in tandem to present and reinforce the core themes of a game is still something of a rarity today, much less in 2005. Republic Commando is, honestly, one of the games I wish Disney would consider bringing back. It's still a solid shooter all these years later, and the idea of a sequel taking advantage of more than a decade's worth of genre advancements sounds like a dream come true. There's so much potential for both Republic Commando and Star Wars games as a whole, and to see it all spent on... well, I feel like there's room for improvement. At the very least, I can always go back and play one of the greatest Star Wars games ever made. Wait a second, you spend a whole level killing children, what the fuck? Hey guys, thank you so much for watching. I love Star Wars, obviously, and I'm glad I could have this video out in time for The Last Jedi. It's like a little celebration. Also, Battlefront 2 is awful, and I need something to cleanse my palate. If you feel like helping support the channel, you can always hit that subscribe button and let yourself know when, each new video is uploaded. And hey, if you feel like going the extra mile, you could always share it to Facebook and Twitter and Reddit and stuff. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.